Ooh. He's so lame. All right. Yeah, this is my favorite time of the year. I love, love, love Halloween.
Yes, Halloween.
All things Halloween.
Yeah, so today we're bringing you a little. I'd like to say it's lighthearted, but man, these stories are scary. We have our guest Matthew with us today, so we're always happy to have him on the show. So again, I'll say today we're not talking about anything really heavy. We are bringing you tales from the horror bedside. Ooh.
Ooh. Do 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 do.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I mean, sit back, enjoy. We're not talking about anything stressful well, maybe it'll get your heart rate going. It might be stressful. But yeah, if you are on break, you're listening, you're a nurse, your physician, allied health, whatever, turn off your lights. This is your 3 o'clock, I guess I should say 3:33 bedtime call. And we're going to make it creepy for you today. We'll maybe start with some personal stories. Sarah, do you want to hit it off or you want me to jump in?
Well, you know what? I have to say Halloween is also my favorite holiday and fall is my favorite season. And like, how can you go wrong? You have like Halloween, you have scary stuff, you have candy. Like, I mean, I have my movies that I watch every year. I don't know if you have your Halloween tradition of movies that you
I
watch.
do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you?
Usually I'm watching them with Amie.
You know what? I even actually bought a Ouija board for tonight. I know we're not doing that, but I have it.
Yes! Look. See, that was the reaction I wanted you to see.
I will leave.
Matthew, are you sure you don't want to play a little game?
I will leave.
I'm pretty sure
you.
Ouija board doesn't work virtually, especially when
You
I'm
don't
the
know
one that
that.
has it.
Huh? You don't know that.
Come
I
on,
don't know
Matthew.
that.
Pull it out. Where's the
playing
Ouija
that
board,
game.
Sarah?
I'm gonna have to leave and get it then. Are you serious?
Go get it.
No.
Okay, I have to go. It'll be
Okay.
like it'll
Let's
be a
just
minute.
see it. Let's just see it.
It's like
Amie,
in my
I'll see you
basement.
in
I gotta go
hell.
get it then. Hang on.
Matthew's about to hang up on us. So while Sarah's gone to get her Ouija board, maybe I'll just jump into a story or just a little bit about my own personal experiences. And I think Matthew can kind of attest to some of the stuff that has happened in my life, And I'm I'd like to say that I'm a skeptical kind of person, but growing up at 140 blank Kingswood Street was quite an intense ride. We had so many crazy things happen, and maybe I'll just tell you one story that had happened to me. And at the end of the day, I think sometimes your mind plays tricks on you. Let's go with that. But I'll tell you my story.
It is not your mind playing tricks on you.
Matthew jumping in there.
I
All
will
right.
echo her sentiments right after she's done her story.
So this was a story where actually I had lived in Brampton at the time, and this house, I don't know, this house was messed up. But this is the time where my grandma was alive, and I actually shared a bedroom with my sister, which kind of sucked, but at the end of the day, it was still good because I got to share a room. So in what happened was my grandma was actually over for the weekend, and she was sleeping in the bed next to my sister. But I always had this issue. Oh my gosh, there's the Ouija board. Oh my gosh, we got to check this out.
I am so upset.
We got to check that out. No, what are you talking about? What are you upset for?
Y'all are trying to have
Oh,
me
you
killed.
opened it.
Was I not supposed to open it?
Oh, is that the viewfinder?
The viewfinder?
It's called a planchette, you guys.
It's called a what? A planchette?
A planchette.
See? You know more about it than even me.
How do you know
Of course
this?
I do. That's why I'm telling you not to do it.
We aren't going to do it. We won't do it today.
No, we're not going to do it ever.
Come on, you don't want to find Mr. Captain Howdy?
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, Captain Howdy's from The Exorcist, and we're not conjuring up no Captain Howdy tonight because we know how that movie ended. Anyways, so jumping back into my story. So essentially what happened was I needed to go to the bathroom. So my house was kind of creepy. My bathroom was kind of around a weird corner off to the end of the hallway. And I remember like being kind of halfway asleep and seeing the light on in the hallway. And I was like, oh, good. Grandma's gone to the bathroom. I'm going to go pee too. So I jumped up, kind of walked down the hall slowly because, like I was tired and whatever. Got down to the hall, looked in the bathroom, no grandma. I'm like, what? I saw her get up out of the bed. I saw her walk down the hall. I thought she was in here. And I was just like, whatever. Maybe like, she finished using it and I missed her or something. So I start walking back to my bedroom and I look in the bed and she is laying in her bed. And I was like, who did I follow out of the bathroom then? And who did I follow to the bathroom? So that for me has stayed with me my entire life. And I remember telling my mom that morning, I was like, Grandma, um, did you go to the bathroom? And she's like, no, honey, I didn't go to the bathroom. And I was just
That's
like,
how she sounded too.
In that voice, right?
in that voice, yeah, like
No,
exactly that voice.
baby.
No, baby, I didn't go to the bathroom. I was like, ah. So I mean, I don't know, like all sorts of messed up stuff happened at my house, but that was just one of my own personal experiences. Take it where you may, and believe it or not, maybe my mind was playing tricks. Who knows?
That is super creepy. I do have a story to share. This is one that I pulled off the internet. It's called Winter Nights.
Ooh.
And so it's about this travel nurse, and her very first travel assignment was during the winter at a hospital in a little town in North Dakota. So it's on night, of course. And one night she's waiting at the nurse's station to get report. The person that she's taking over from is busy in her room. She answers a call from the tele room that the patient's heart rate is down into the 30s. It's someone that she'll be taking from the nurse that is busy. So she goes down there expecting that a lead came off or whatever, or the monitor's unplugged or something. But she goes there and the patient is not only not responsive, but cold, like cold to the touch. And they're a DNR. And then she finally talked to the nurse and told her what happened. And the nurse was like, oh, that's weird. I was just in there 15 minutes ago. And the patient was awake and laughing and perfectly fine. So she starts doing all the post-mortem stuff because the patient has died and she's at the desk. And the call light in that room went off, the one that the patient just died in. And she went down there thinking the nurse needed help with something, but there's no one in there except for the body. And this happened at least one more time during that same shift before the patient's family got there to gather the belongings. And that was one of the stranger experiences that she's had so far.
And then I would have gone
That's
to
a
the
whole heap
HR
of messed up.
personnel and quit because I'm not trying to deal with the undead.
No.
Right?
No.
I think that with us being healthcare professionals, we're supposed to have that healthy skepticism, especially when it comes to horror and ghost stories and these types of things, to be like, yeah, no, that can't be true. But I mean, again, even though I was like, yeah, Sarah, pull out that Ouija board, don't touch it. Like I think deep down, we're like, I don't know. I feel like I'd say that I don't think these things exist, but sometimes people have situations that are unexplainable.
There's
That's
my
true.
rational brain and then my irrational brain. So my rational brain is saying, like, let's focus on the science. Like, how can this be explained by science? And then the other side of the brain is like, I'm looking over my shoulder being like, get me the hell out of here. I
Right?
remember I used to be so freaked out by that movie, The Mummy. Did you ever watch that?
Oh my
You
gosh,
were
don't tell
scared
me
of
that
the
was your
mummy?
okay, so there are scary parts in it, but I haven't been freaked out by the mummy.
I was
It's all good,
freaked out
Sarah.
for like months. Like months.
Oh no.
The
Well, you know
movie
what? I
that
have
freaked me out was The Exorcist, and I watched it at your house, Amie.
sorry.
How old were you? For
What
the
age
bigger
were
question is like,
we?
how old were you
I
when you watched The
was
Exorcist?
probably 7
Oh
because Amie was
No, couldn't be
probably
no.
that
10.
young.
Yeah, I
Maybe. Maybe
Well,
for you.
Matt's younger than you, Amie, so that might be
yeah.
possible. When you're
Yeah,
like a
I think I was
kid.
probably around like 10 or 11 when I first saw The Exorcist.
So
And
then I would
I
have
didn't
been 7 or 8.
see, I didn't see it full through. I think I remember seeing like bits and parts because I don't think I was supposed to watch it, but my brother had it. And I remember seeing I always caught it on the scenes where, Reagan was fully duppying out, fully being like haunted out. And and seeing that visually was scary, but the context behind it was much scarier. So as I got older and I watched it, I was like, oh man, I have lots of questions as to like, can this actually happen?
Mhm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I want to read you guys a story that's very similar to yours, Sarah. And I read this one tonight and I creeped myself out. So this one is called "The Doctor Has a Frightening Experience Verifying a Woman is Dead." So verifying death is always sad, but my friend tells the funniest story about how creepy his first verification of death was. This was not meant to disrespect anyone or the dead, but gallow humor is a large part of doctors and nurses' coping strategies. He was on night shift a few weeks into his first job as a qualified doctor and got a call from a ward saying that an old lady had passed away. It was an expected death, hence he hadn't been called about her before, and he could come verify her and do the paperwork. It was a busy shift with lots of sick people, so she wasn't the first person that he went to go see. And it did take him several hours to get there. He goes up and they tell him that she's in room number 8. The door to room number 8 is ajar and the room is dark. Now, she was on the side of the room, but most patients that were in that room actually shared, I guess, several different bays. Um, so he didn't want to actually turn the lights on because there were people that were still in the rooms that were actually, sleeping. But he was actually quite nervous, but he didn't want to be too hasty with it. So he pulled out his pen light.
Oh
Here's where the
gosh.
story gets good, right? So he pulls out his pen light and slightly opens the door, and he swears that he hears that the blinds rattled against the sill as he crept towards her bed. The tiny circle of light from his torch was picking out the rumpled white hospital blanket, and you could see her very slim body underneath the white sheets. Finally, the light played over her face, and he had to bite back a little scream, nearly dropping the torch. For whatever reason, her pose in death is one of a horrified and horrifying snarl. Her lips are drawn back to bare, likely false teeth, the whites of her eyes showing in a fixed, blind stare, and both hands are up by her face, curled into claws, slightly over long nails, shining grimly in the meager torchlight.
Oh my.
Now, yeah, right. Now, to verify a death, the doctor has to listen to the heart and breath sounds for approximately 2 minutes while feeling for a pulse, checking for pupil reactions, and check for no response to pain. He flickered the torchlight dutifully across her glaring eyes, forcing himself to shuffle close enough to the torch just to check for that response of pain, and then to settle his shaking fingers on her throat so close to her ferociously grinning teeth to feel for a pulse. To get his stethoscope under the he had to for his stethoscope he had to get it underneath the collar of her gown, under the blankets, and lean in closer, almost nose to nose with her now, unable to draw his gaze away from her as she stares at him. Um, he's supposed to stay like that for 2 minutes. The seconds are crawling away as he stares into that screaming, horrified looking face. He says that there's no way he would have heard a breath or breath sounds even if she had been alive, because all he could hear was his own racing heart in his ears and a loop back in his head saying, "Please don't move. Please, dear God, don't move."
That would have been me. That would have
Oh.
been me the whole time. I would have been bracing to run away any
Oh,
minute.
wow.
Could you imagine? I'd be like, I'm gonna listen for a second. She's good. Bye.
I'd be trying
No,
not to
I
have a
would have
panic attack
flicked
the whole
on
time.
those lights. I would have flicked on
Wait,
those
you'd wake
lights.
up all the other
All of
patients?
them. Like, "Sorry,
Yeah, what's with
guys."
the pen light here?
He
And I
was
would have
doing
had
his
somebody come
best to
in
not
with
wake up
me.
the patients.
Nope, nope. I would not be doing that.
And it's so funny. Like, we should be like, death is a natural occurrence, but I think when it comes to that immediacy, it can be really scary. And I think that, again, this is why we have to talk about it. And maybe that's why I'm obsessed with horror movies, because at the end of the day I could be like, that wasn't real, right? So
Hmm.
That's true.
Matt, you must have some stories from your nursing or from your personal life.
I don't really have much from my nursing. I have one. Um, I have a couple from my personal life, a couple that took place at Amy's, that
Oh
house that
gosh.
she had described.
Always.
But my nursing one, so I remember when I started working at um, my current job, and it's an older hospital, so um, our lounge was nowhere near our unit, down the hallway to the left and right there. But where it was in like an abandoned wing because they just didn't have the money to open that wing at that time. So I was going to the lounge to have my lunch, and this is probably the first year that I started working there. Um, and something just told me to keep walking straight down the unit until you hit, I guess, the crossroad.
Hmm.
And so I did. So I looked up the hallway and then I looked down the hallway. And when I looked down the hallway, it was um, a really long hallway and all the lights were on. So I'm just standing there staring for I don't know what reason. And the lights from left to right in the room started turning off. So boom,
Mm-mm.
boom, boom, boom.
Oh.
That's when I just booked it. I didn't, I was like, I'm not eating today. So I just ran back to the unit and they were like, what happened? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
And so this
But then
happened
when I
during the
did tell
day then?
someone, no, this is like one of my evening shifts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Creepy.
Um,
that is super creepy. Like I used to actually have a night terror that was similar to that where I would wake up and look I would always end up like looking out my window and looking down to see the streetlights, and they would do that same thing, but
oh, that is
it would be
creepy.
completely black. So as the lights turned out, it wasn't like it was, shade. It was just there was nothing. And I used to have like wake up from these night terrors and be like, "Oh my gosh, like thank God that wasn't real." But it's definitely probably something I've seen in some horror film that I've watched. But yeah, like
Yeah.
that stuff is always messed up.
Hmm.
Speaking about your house, can I please talk about my experiences at that place?
Yeah, so definitely my house is the original Hell House. I know they
Hmm.
talk about it in American Story of theirs, but I have that house that I lived in was the original Hell House.
It really
Go ahead.
was. So, as you know, Amy and I are cousins, and for as long as I can remember, that house that she was growing up in terrified the hell out of me. I There's no real explanation as to why, except that it's haunted. Um, oh God, like I've had so many weird experiences. Like I remember one time I was at your house and I got dropped off there early and I didn't have school that day because I went to Catholic school and you went to public school, so we had holidays that you didn't. So I went to your house and you were still at school, so I was in that living room. Um, Not the living room, sorry, the den watching TV. And no matter where I am or what's happening, I always feel like someone's watching me in that den.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting there and continuously looking over to my right to where the corridor opens
Yeah.
to see if somebody would be like popping and staring at me. And I just kept doing it, and it was so uncomfortable. Eventually, you came home, but that was just one of many. Oh my God, that place.
Well, I
Like even taking
remember
showers there was so uncomfortable. I felt like I was being watched.
it was just okay. There was some like I remember we actually used to like my mom used to rent out our basement, remember? And she had rented out to some I can't remember what family this was, but oh yeah, I do remember, but I'm not going to name them anyways. And I believe their mother had died. And then they had moved out a couple years after, but
Oh
some
yeah.
really weird stuff was happening.
Sorry, she
And
died in the house or she just died like
no,
while you
she
were
had
there?
died. Like, I think we actually had gone on like a family vacation to Jamaica and we got news that she died. And even the circumstances under the news of her dying was all creepy. I think we received, like, my mom said she had received a call from her and she was like, I'm in the hospital. I'm not doing well. whatever the case may be. And my mom was like, okay, we'll be back from Jamaica in a couple days. And then a couple days later, while we were out in Jamaica, we got the call that she had died. And then when my mom was speaking to one of her children, saying like, "Oh, you, we spoke to your mom before she died." I remember him saying something along the lines of like, "That's impossible because she had died at this time before that," and we were all creeped out by that. Anyways, I remember so yeah, she had died. We had gotten back from Jamaica, and my mom had some like really bizarre friends. And I just remember like one time they had all moved down. We had, like I said, we had these like very bizarre kind of things happening. And she got this friend to come over, and this friend was like, "There's evil in your house." And I was like, I remember like, okay, imagine being like, 13, 14 years old, hearing this woman shouting that there's evil spirits in your house. And she's like, "I need salt." It's like something straight out of Supernatural. And she's like running around the basement, like throwing salt around, and, like cleaning our house, like, the poltergeist. And I was just like, what is happening here? But, I mean, I think back and I'm like, was that all like necessary? Is that stuff true? But I have to be honest, I was really
Yes,
creeped out back then when I was young. So like
it
it was just
was necessary.
super creepy. Yeah, that house was something else, that's for sure.
Maybe that's where your love of Halloween comes from. Just the creepiness is so familiar to you because that's where you grew up and it's like your
Well,
comfort zone.
I don't know, because I, like I said, I think I'd like to say that I'm pretty skeptical, but I think it's also just like that West Indian, Caribbean upbringing that is just like, even if I say that I don't believe in it, we don't mess with it, right? We're just like,
Yeah,
okay, we don't believe in ghosts or this and that, but it's like, we're not going to take that chance if
Mhm.
there is a chance, right? And I think, I don't know,
absolutely.
that was just kind of how I was raised, but I know I need to have a little bit more common sense.
Like I know that a lot of people are kind of obsessed with the whole waking up from the dead and back in the day before there was stethoscopes or technology, you never really knew if someone was dead, right? You just were like, okay, they're not moving, they're not breathing. We're just going to, bury them. And there's lots of stories of people waking up from the dead. I don't know if you've heard the term dead ringer or graveyard shift before, but like
Yep.
I read about this when I was doing research for this episode, and people used to be buried with a string tied to their wrist, and there'd be a bell actually on the outside, right? So they used to
Yeah,
not be buried 6 feet down; it was maybe just like a couple of feet, and if they started moving, it would ring this bell, and then
House to
there'd
the
be
no.
someone. So that's where dead ringer comes from, and the term graveyard shift was because there literally used to be someone that would sit in the graveyard all night to listen for the bell of people that were buried alive, and he would have to like dig them out.
Yeah, well,
And I
there
find that
there have
super
been
creepy.
stories. Yeah, well, you're
Hmm.
right, Sarah. There have been stories and accounts of people who have unfortunately been buried alive, or they were paralyzed or whatever the case may be, and they weren't dead. So, but yeah, like I mean, that's why that has happened. And I mean, I've read some pretty creepy things too, and I think, I don't know, like I just don't know the veracity of some of these stories, where people work in morgues or in funeral homes and they read about, they've adjusted the body in this way and they come back and the body is like sitting up, right? It's
Oh
just
my
like,
god, you just gave me a really creepy visual.
well, could you
seriously.
imagine, right? Well, imagine, being a funeral director and you're preparing a body for a family and you've put them down to lay down the casket, and you leave and you come back and they're sitting upright. Like that is, these
Like
are some
bolt
stories that I have read.
upright.
Yeah, like fully upright. I'm like, that can't be right. But these are people's accounts. It's just,
I
I don't
know.
know. It's crazy. It's all crazy.
Like I get
That is
back in the day
creepy.
where you might not have known somebody was dead, like maybe they were sleeping or there's some weird medical condition, but I actually found a story from 2014, and it was this man named Walter Williams who was 78 years old. He was found alive and literally kicking in a body bag at a funeral home in Mississippi.
Oh my God.
So this discovery came as the staff were preparing to embalm his body, so he was spared the gruesome fate of having an artery sliced open and his blood replaced with formaldehyde to replace his tissues. So he
Jesus.
had been declared dead with no pulse, but it was just a few hours later that he began kicking in the embalming room. And so the staff called an ambulance, and they were like, of course, how did this happen? Well, in his case, it was thought that the atropine he was given by medical staff to counteract the insecticide he had ingested or whatever made him appear dead. But the other problem was the coroner that pronounced him dead didn't have a medical degree. And
Oh
it turns
no.
out he was an elected official who didn't have a medical degree. And in some places, I guess you don't have to have a medical degree to be a coroner, which I find crazy. And that's why it's for very good reason that only certain people, like physicians or, nurse practitioners, should be allowed to pronounce someone dead.
Yeah,
Yikes. Oh my
that's
god.
crazy.
I
But did you
know,
guys
right?
hear about the case where this was a couple of years ago in North York, where the woman who I think she was on her way to the hospital, um, and she ended up giving birth to a newborn, or she was kicked off the bus or something, ended up giving birth to a newborn in like the dead of winter in the cold, and then like when the ambulance got there, they pronounced the baby dead, or when they got to the hospital, they pronounced the baby dead, but like
Oh
minutes
no.
later, the baby started moving,
Oh,
No.
and it
I
like
mean,
and the baby survived. I think this was in
wow.
2015.
when was it?
Oh,
I think this was
2015.
2015.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
That's kind of amazing. I mean, I think that
Yeah,
the fact that the baby was able to kind of survive something that traumatic,
but can
that's
you
kind of
imagine the
a
trauma the mother has gone through?
yeah, that'd be harrowing. That would be like
A
awful, right?
lot.
I think when it comes to children, um like I think especially when we're talking about things that are scary, like we there's that innocence, right? And we
Hmm.
want to protect that, but then on the flip side, kids can be kind of scary too.
It can be really unpredictable. Like
It can
like
be
their heart stops
super
beating and then it starts
creepy.
again apparently. But I
Well,
remember
Oh,
hearing
does
about
that?
cases where like I've heard of cases where kids fall through the ice and they're like in really cold water, right? And they appear to be dead, but I think there's something about the cold that preserves their brain and then they can somehow like come back to life. Or like it slows
yeah,
their heart rate or something.
yeah, it slows down their heart rate, and that's why essentially when you're trying to when you're resuscitating, especially someone who has hypothermia, you do it very slowly. You want to raise their temperature very slowly, and
Mhm.
it's almost, I don't want to say the cold is a preservative, but it actually kind of keeps them going for a little bit long. It slows everything down, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
back to like scary kids, I actually have a little bit of a scary story in terms of a toddler. I when I read this, I read it from a different angle. I want to see if you guys feel this too. So this one's called "A Toddler's X-ray Shows Dental Work Done, but the parents and insurance say otherwise." So the story starts out: I'm not a doctor, but I am of the healthcare field as a dental hygienist. The creepiest, most confusing thing I've seen is as follows. We had a new patient come in for a cleaning. He was around 3 to 4 years old, and his mom said that he had never been to the dentist before. Not uncommon for what I've seen on a daily basis, so at first I didn't think anything of it. I did his cleaning, and then I went to take his routine x-rays. This is where shit got weird. After looking at the x rays, I could see that the child had already had a large amount of dental work done. He had around 6 to 7 composite tooth color fillings. When I sat back down on the chair, I asked the parents again if he had ever been to the dentist. They were both adamant that he had never been to the dentist and also said that there was no relative around that could have possibly taken him or taken him without knowing. What the fuck? How did this happen? Who took him? Where were the parents? Had they possibly been in jail for a long period of time and not known that their child was taken to the dentist by someone else and had this work performed? What if this really wasn't their child and actually had this child had been kidnapped? His insurance had no record of him ever having any previous dental work done, so that was a dead end too. I think about it often, but ultimately I'll never get an answer. What do you guys think?
I feel like there's a lot more questions that needed to be asked there.
When I read that, my first thought was I felt like that child was in danger. I was terrified when I read that. Like dental work, we essentially not we, but when people die, and let's say they, there's no identification on them or whatnot, they identify them through their dental work. So if this family is saying that this child has never had dental work and the child has numerous amounts of dental work, that's not their kid.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Alien abduction.
I feel
Oh
like I
my
would have
goodness.
called the police.
Yeah, like I read
Honestly,
that and I was like, "Oh my god."
I'm like,
Cuz
no, no, this is weird.
I'm like, "Sir, you need to sit here and wait. I just need to make a phone call." Right? But I mean, I hope that wherever this child is today, if it's a real story, that they're safe, because when I read that, it kind of creeped me out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
But yeah, kids can be like super scary. I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen, but late night sleeping and then you wake up and you look over and your toddler's standing at the edge of your bed or standing right in front of your face.
Yeah,
That's
I
like
have
a
had the
punch my child in
experience
the throat
of
moment. Okay, I
waking
would
up.
never do that, but I mean, just very creeped out.
I
So
have
just
had the
like breathing
experience of
right onto
waking
your
up with your
face, right?
toddler in my face.
Sorry, say that again, Matt.
I have had the experience of waking up with one of your toddlers in my face.
It's super creepy, right?
Hi, Uncle. And I'm like, oh my God.
And this is one thing that I actually haven't told a lot of people. So one of my sons actually suffers from night terrors as well. I guess it's like a familial thing where he will come running out of his room at like usually it's around the same time, like around 9:30 at night, and he's fully sleeping, but he's like pointing at stuff and he's screaming and sometimes he's crying and I'm like, whoa, like this is too much. So like my irrational brain is like, he's haunted. And Jordan's like, it's just a terror. Like turn on the lights, talk to him, give him a glass of water and put him back to sleep. And we've been dealing with that for a while, but I mean, I could only imagine how scary it is for him to be fully asleep but feel like he's awake. Or is
And
it,
so
yeah, that's right.
does he have any memory of this in the morning?
Never. No.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what
So
makes it, I guess,
definitely
like a
night
night
terror.
terror. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, I have one other story that I'd like to tell you. And this is kind of in line with our ICU friends that are out there working tirelessly during the
Mhm.
pandemic, but I'm sure they've seen some pretty scary stuff too. So this one's called They're Still Here. It's actually a very short one. So this is from an ICU nurse. So I was working on an ICU, and I had a patient who would only repeat what was said to her, and was and I was with her all that night. One time, I went into her room, and she started telling me all the different ways that she died. I died because of a narcotic overdose. I died because I took too much insulin. I died on a sunny Sunday afternoon, etc. Then later, she looked up at the ceiling and she grabbed me and said, "They're all still here."
Oh
I
man.
ran out of that room as fast as I could. Another time, I had a blind patient who kept asking me what time it was all day, all night long. One time, I went in the room to check and he says, "It's the witching hour. I know it's 3:33." And I walked out of the room.
Oh my
So,
god.
right? So we won't work in the ICU anytime soon.
Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. or like 3:30 and thought to yourself, oh my God,
Yeah, I'm like,
it's
I need
too
to go back to
close?
sleep. I'm like, I
That's
need to go
happened to
back to
me too
sleep.
often, actually.
Oh my
Like in
goodness.
Chinese culture, the number 4 is really unlucky because the word for 4 sounds like death. So for
Yeah.
me, 4:44 is the worst time.
Oh
Oh
my
my gosh. Have you
God.
ever
And
woken up at 4:44?
I have.
Did you scream?
No, I just try to go back as fast as possible to sleep.
Right? It's like go
Oh
back to sleep, go back
man.
to sleep, go back to sleep.
Have you ever had not night terrors, what are they called? The ones where you can't move.
Yes, I have
Oh,
had those all the time.
sleep paralysis.
Sleep
And
paralysis.
actually, it's so scary because sometimes I'll wake up from my dream and know I'm in a dream and I can't get out of my dream. So what I read that I
Mm-hmm.
needed to do to break out of this paralysis was try to move my tongue. And it actually does work sometimes. Like if I can move my
Oh,
tongue, then it's like I'm moving a small muscle in my body and then the rest of my body just kind of comes back. But
Starts
I
to wake
find that
up.
it happens like if it does happen, it's slowly after, like shortly after I've fallen asleep, like within the first maybe half an hour. If I get
Mm-hmm.
woken up unexpectedly, then it's like my brain is awake, but my body is like not responding to my brain.
yeah.
If
Can I
that
There's
makes
add
any
there's
to
actually a
this?
sense.
myth. There's like a myth and urban legend behind sleep paralysis, and
Yeah.
this
With the
essentially it's
hag.
the hag or a demon sitting on your chest, and that's why you can't actually wake up. It's just a myth, of course. And I mean, it's like I think if you look at like mythology related to sleep paralysis, there's lots of different stories around why that might be happening, but we know that that's not the case. So
Well, you
don't
can
worry, Sarah.
You're
hallucinate.
just saying that because we're not in the same room together. I know.
Sarah, be worried. Be so worried. No, no, no. Like, there's a lot of scientific explanations for probably all the different phenomena that people have experienced. But again, I'm not going to discount anyone's experience, and I definitely am not going to be playing with a Ouija board anytime soon. It's a great prop. We will keep it.
Well, I mean, if anyone listening has creepy stories or Halloween stories, we definitely want to hear from you. We love
Oh,
those kind of things.
absolutely. Yeah. Matthew, you have any other creepy things to share?
I do.
Okay.
So, I'll start back with sleep paralysis. So, as a youth, it would happen to me quite often. Um, but I would hear things. So,
Really?
Oh
like,
no.
it would sound like a deep, scary, demonic voice screaming in my ear, something that I can't understand. Um,
Like a tongue that you've never heard before?
yeah, but
That's
like
messed up.
I would like eventually it would just stop and I would snap out of it and wake up. Um, but like I didn't realize you can actually hallucinate, and that's what that is. Well, not hallucinate, you're dreaming essentially.
Right, right.
But so okay, so my first apartment. Do you remember when I was living in that basement apartment, Amy? That first
Mhm.
one that I moved into. Um, so the way in which my apartment is was laid out was you go down these steps from the outside, you walk into a hallway. That hallway leads to a kitchen, and if you keep going straight, it leads you into a living room. And then to the upper left, my bedroom's there. So I would always sleep with my bedroom door open, and oh, I had a bathroom door that was next to me, and I would sleep with that one closed. And I slept, actually, no, I would sleep with them both open. But the reason why I would do that was so I got airflow. Um, One night I was sleeping, and or before I went to bed, I used my app, my sleeping app, um, and it like basically records like any noises or whatnot, or if I wake up in the middle of the night or if someone's talking. Um, So I had set that up and I went to bed. So this app is also my alarm clock. So I woke up randomly. And you know, when you wake up out of a sleep, you kind of just like groggily wake up. Um, I just sat up when I woke up. Like I
Oh
opened
my
up my eyes
god.
and I sat
Wow.
up. I didn't use my hands. And it was the weirdest experience because I remember being like, oh, okay. So I sat up and my eyes are open and I'm looking out my bedroom door and there is a silhouette of like what
No.
You
appears
just
to
made me
be a
have a
man.
chill.
Um, and I knew that this wasn't a person. Um, I knew it was something completely different. But you know when you feel a presence and you know when you can tell it's sinister, this one
Debbie
wasn't.
Tings.
I didn't feel any sort of sinister presence, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'm being visited, and I went back to sleep. That was my first mistake.
Oh no.
But like I just like laid back down and fell asleep. So then I woke up again and I shot back up. And this time that silhouette was in my bedroom. So at the foot of my
No.
bed. And now I'm staring at it and it's huge. And I can see I can definitely not see through it, but it doesn't look real and I still don't feel afraid. So I just went back to sleep. And then I woke up again and it was actually like floating over me and this time I backhanded it.
No way.
You
No way.
This time I
bitch.
backhanded it and it dissipated within that backhand and I said you are not welcome here, do not come back.
Oh no.
But
Oh my god.
so that app I was using, my alarm clock that records my sleep, um, I went back to, well, no, I didn't actually go back to bed. I kind of just like laid there and then my alarm clock went off hours later. And then I looked at it and it gives you the analysis of like what was happening during the night. So thank God there were no noises except I guess me just like saying things like, you're not welcome here. Um, but it showed that I woke up from the hours of 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and 3 a.m. But it was on those hours. Like it felt like I woke up seconds later, but they were actually hours later.
Like on the hour.
Yeah, it was so creepy. And then not too long after that, I started sleeping with my door ajar and my bathroom door open. And that was to get some airflow because when I would sleep with it closed, I would get no airflow. Um, so I couldn't see outside my door, thank God, because it was terrifying. No. So, but this time, I remember waking up one morning and I woke up slowly. And I just like, I remember hearing somebody walking in my living room, like stomp, 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 stomp. And you know, when you can hear the sound, like you can hear where someone's walking, like if they're
Yeah.
walking, yeah. So this person was walking in a circle in my living room. And then when they were on, like, I guess the 1 o'clock part of that circle, it stopped. And then I heard them run stomp towards my bedroom door. And then I sat up and it stopped. And
Matthew, you stop
is
watching
when I
horror
gave
movies.
them, that is when I gave them my notice
Mhm.
and said, I
Yeah.
am moving out. And then I did.
No more scary movies, Matt.
No,
Too
that
much
was
scary
terrifying.
movies. Oh no.
I saw the shadow people in your house too when I was a
What?
kid.
Don't tell me about no shadow people in my house.
When
What
I
house?
was,
This house?
no, not that
Oh,
house.
okay.
That the scary house, the
Oh,
bedroom that you and Shalene used to sleep in, or you and Grandma. Um, I was sleeping there by myself, and I hated sleeping there. So you were in that other room,
right.
um, and this is why I used to always go to your room and sleep on the floor. Do you remember?
I remember.
So I was in the bedroom, and you know how the beds face the closet, and there were two double
Right,
door
yeah. There was
closets, and they were
it was like a
massive.
double door closet, yeah.
It was
I
like a
remember.
second master bedroom. It was weird. Um, so I remember two of those closet doors were ajar, and I was laying there in the middle of the night, and something walked out of one of them and
I'm
just
so
walked over to the
sorry.
side. And then another something walked out of them and started walking back and forth. Another something walked out and started walking this way. And then
Why didn't you just leave?
another
Oh
one walked out
no.
and just stared at me. And and then one kept popping its head out of the closets. Um, and I
How
stayed
many
awake.
shadow people came out?
I don't know, like seven or not
Oh
seven,
my
like six.
gosh. Like a whole
But
family
I
of them.
sat there with the blankets up to my face, staring at
Oh
them until the
god,
sun came up.
Matthew.
Like, do you not remember there were so many times where I'd be so tired in the morning?
Well, yeah, like why wouldn't you say so? Oh my
I
god.
did. I have,
Oh
Amy.
no. I
Like, even
mean,
our cousins are terrified of that house.
you know, I'll have to say, yeah, there was some strange things that happened, but I again, like I said, I'm gonna be skeptical and I'm gonna say there's gotta be an explanation for all that craziness that happened.
Dubby Tings.
Debbie Tings, Debbie Tings.
Sarah, do you have any more personal ones?
I have one that I kind of shared in our last episode, but I used to live in I lived in a house off campus when I was in university, and
Hmm.
there was 6 people living in one house. So the very top floor was me and my roommate. We were like in the attic, and then the second floor had 4 bedrooms, and then the basement had 2 more bedrooms. But I think that year I had really late exams, so I was like the last one in the house for that year, right? It was like December 20th or something like that. And so I was in this house by myself, and I'm not used to that because I'm used to like tons of people around. And I'm studying for my exam. It's super late, and the way that the attic was set up, there was like this crawl space that connected one bedroom to the other, like me and my roommate's bedroom. And there were these doors that you kind of like, you know how you like lift the whole door out and you kind of set it aside? Like it was one of those square
Oh
shaped
yeah.
entrances.
Yeah.
So like I was in there studying by myself, and I hear this knocking sound, and it sounds like it's coming cuz my ceiling was kind of, it was slanted because it was the attic. So I hear this knocking sound, and it sounds like it's coming from like the roof. And then the knocking sound kind of travels down towards the crawl space. And then
Mm-mm.
I start hearing the knocking sound like on the other side of the door that you can kind of lift out. I'm like,
No.
can't do this. So I run downstairs to the kitchen, which clearly is like my safe space. I don't know why,
Good
because there's no
move.
one in the house to protect me. And I'm sitting in there and I'm like waiting for this noise to go away. And then finally it does. And I kind of make my way back upstairs, but I slept with the light on that night. I could not explain or justify why it was happening, and I was literally alone. Like I must have been the last class to write an exam that year. Like it was a ghost town. And I still can't explain what that noise was because it wasn't like a scratching noise that you would hear from a raccoon or like a rat or anything like that. It sounded like a person was literally on the other side of that ceiling, like knocking on it. But I even went outside and nobody was there that I could see. And like being on the 3rd floor, I don't know how anybody could get that high without a ladder anyways. So that's my
It was the
story.
devil.
Maddie is the worst.
And I think around that time I had watched some horror movie. I can't remember what it was, but it was like at a certain time every night, bad things would happen. I think it was around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
Well, the I guess the horror mantra is like if you hear a knock, you never knock back. Like if you hear like
No?
you don't go
No.
to like try to find out
Or
what was there.
or if you hear like if you know if you're in your own home and you know no one's there and you hear someone talking, you don't ask who it is.
You should
Like
just tell them to go.
if you've got to investigate, you do it on the like as you're leaving. And if you gotta call the cops, girl, you call the cops. But you make
I
yourself,
mean,
oh no.
I think I think we're suspending our own disbelief tonight. I think again again, Halloween is just it's I don't know. I find it's just a fun time of year for me and I've
It is
always
the
liked
best.
the scary stuff and I think again I'm going to say this and just continue to reiterate it. I think for the most part, look at me. I'm even saying for the most part, I'm such a chicken shit. That there's explanations for all of this. What do
It's
you
kind
guys
of
think?
it's
Come
kind of
on.
funny. I like the idea of the unknown. I like that there's mystery sometimes about certain things,
Hmm.
and that not everything is recorded or online. It's just the mystery of it all is intriguing.
No, I agree. It makes it fun.
I agree as well. But I believe like you're absolutely right that a lot of these things can be explained. But I also do believe there's a spirit world. I
Right.
think it's just the way in which I was raised. I do believe that, spirits exist and there are ones that are sinister. So, even if it is a situation that can be explained, I still won't disrespect it.
Hmm.
No, I hear you. Again, like I said, Matthew, that's like our upbringing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna like I was looking at some like Ouija stuff on this because you can do Ouija apps. And I was like, oh, maybe we'll do like a Ouija app together. And I was like,
No.
nah. Nah, I'm gonna try that out today. No.
Oh man, or ever.
No. But I mean, Halloween's a fun time. I hope that, with COVID that kids can go out and just try to be safe, but still enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
holiday because, I think it's been so hard on these young kids
It has
throughout this
been.
entire pandemic. I hope that they can at least have this one and people don't be a-holes and cough on candy or do anything weird like that. But
Mhm.
like I said, I love Halloween and I can't wait to show you guys my actual costume because this is not my actual costume, but I won't
Yeah,
tell
you're
you.
just dressed like yourself.
How dare you?
Ouch, what are you saying?
She's a witch.
This is actually how I am all year round. Thank you. No.
That lipstick too. That's just your everyday lip wear.
Well, I mean,
Hmm.
I was like, I might as well look cute. Try to look cute because what's the point of wearing lipstick with a mask on? You just get
That's
lipstick
true.
on the inside of your mask. So
So disappointing.
for sure. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you, Matthew, for joining us again to talk about
Thank
all things
you.
scary, the occult. And again, yeah, I hope you guys had a good time just listening to us, just relaxing, nothing serious today. Just some good old Halloween fun.
Mwahahaha.
Some good old gritty fun.
Gritty fun.